We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Here we go again.
Greetings from Tbilisi, Georgia. This is the Anadrome, and I'm Burn Power, your host. And I am coming from my place of recovery, still in plenty of pain, with especially the lumbar stuff has really been bad. But it's all from my broken arm, which still has issues that I'm not going to go into. I've been going through therapy sessions and such. I made on the Anadromist channel, I made an update about that on the live stream. Well, today what we're going to do very quickly is go through my top 10 in horror. I also have somewhere around here my top 10 films of the year. This is my top 10 horror films of the year 2025. Now, I saw lots of horror films this year. When I say lots, I mean there are people who've watched many, many more. I don't watch much on streaming. I only did Netflix for a month this year, and the last time I did that was 2 years ago. But I felt it was a pretty good year for horror films. I think last year I would give it a bit of a nod as being a better year, but this one was also very good, proving my contention that horror films are the most important genre for our times. So let's start at the back end here, and we're going to get to 28 years later. And I felt this was a solid film. The only way it's really connected to 28 days and weeks later are through the basic setup, but even then, the rules have changed, and there's evidently a sequel coming out this month, January 2025. So we'll see what that means. By the way, this is a weird Georgian specialty, tarragon soda. Quite a bizarre, unique taste. I can't even begin to describe it. It's like if it was a mint soda mixed with pear. But 28 years later, sets up the new situation in this world. Rafe Fiennes does a great job as this guy who's kind of gone crazy in this bone temple. Or is he seeing the new reality? And the next film is called The Bone Temple. Jodie Comer does her usual stellar job. Really fascinating. I recommend it. Some people didn't like it, but, I'm not one of these people who has to have perfection. I'm just happy when things work. And for me, that was the number 10 horror film of the year. Then there's a film which, again, I think very few people saw, and that's called Keeper. And this was a film by Oz Perkins, who made last year's Longlegs and earlier this year's Monkey. Monkey came close to being on this list, The Monkey. But Keeper is strange. It is mythological in many ways. And it has scenes in it I've never seen anywhere else. It's very slow to begin with. The first 45 or more minutes, you're just going like, what is going on here? It also follows this trend that I've seen of films set in rural locations or distant locations that have this kind of gray tone, like think back to The Lodge or The Night House, or this year's Bring Her Back and Keeper. These films are kind of an isolated home setting, and they're often homes you'd really want to live in. But they're in this gray, dark world. Oz Perkins' work is almost all set in this gray, autumnal world. But there is one scene in here of, shall we say, a face, which is something I have never seen before. And that really felt like some mythological creature from, I don't know, ancient Sumeria or Greece or something. Really fascinating. It's kind of a relationship movie, too. I'm not going to try to spoil it for you. I did make a video of this. I did make one for 28 Years Later, so you can go watch that. Companion, starring Sophie Thatcher. And the more I think about this, the more I like it. Originally, when I saw it, I said, oh, okay, this is interesting. But now I watch it and I say, wow, this is very fascinating. And Sophie Thatcher, as an actress, she was in last year's Heretic, is someone to watch. She is really developing into an interesting actress. And you can tell she's got something to communicate of herself. And so Companion kind of blurs the lines between horror and science fiction. I won't go into details. I did make a video of this one. And then, the reason I went back to Netflix was Frankenstein. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which is a gorgeous film, very gothic, excellent acting. I really liked Mia Goth in this one. I thought Jacob Elordi as the monster was quite good, and Oscar Isaac was quite good as well. I mean, absolutely gorgeous set design and photography. However, the reason I thought it was going to get higher on this list, but the reason it didn't, it's too... Guillermo del Toro has this weakness in his, especially second half of his film career, of making the monster more human than the humans. And basically saying the monster, he has said on record that the monster for him is where his sympathies lie. And I understand that. I have often thought monsters were really important. However, I think that that's a defect in this film. It's a small one, but it's also a big one as well. Then we come to what is probably the most disturbing film on this list, although there's another one coming up which might give it a run for its money. And this film is called Bring Her Back, which stars Sophie Hawkins. This was made by the same people who made Talk to Me. And it's an Australian duo whose name is escaping me at the moment. But fascinating film. One of the creepiest kids I've ever seen in a film. Mother goes crazy. There is also something in films, a lot of people who are skeptical about children and birth. And that doesn't surprise me, because when more younger people are saying, I don't want children, that means they're becoming afraid of children. And that's something we really need to address in our society. But Bring Her Back there's one scene in particular, everyone who's seen this film will know exactly which scene I'm talking about, which makes you jump out of your seat. Not because it's the most ugly thing you've ever seen, it's almost the sound of it that is terrifying. But it's just like, It's a dark film that unravels, very similar in tone to Keeper, kind of slow but extremely dark. There's body horror, there's witchcraft, and all sorts of stuff. And again, kind of genre mixing. Then we've got The Long Walk, which is based on a Stephen King novel, The Long Walk, which he made as Richard Bachman, pseudonym. And he did this to put out his earlier work that he didn't want to get confused with his post-Carrie work. And this really works. Now, I didn't see the other one that came out this year, The Running Man, because the reviews were just like, no, I don't need to see that. But The Long Walk is absolutely gut-wrenching. And the basic principle is really simple. A group of young men are told to start walking. There is no deadline. And if they stop, they get shot. Simple. Absolutely well made. Then we come to this really intense Norwegian film, The Ugly Stepsister, which is probably the other one that gives Bring Her Back a run for her money for just disturbing. The Ugly Stepsister, Norwegian variation on obviously the Cinderella myth. I made a whole video on this. I would recommend watching that because I really go into the history of the Cinderella story. But wow, it's a body horror film, and I think the main message of the film, the director, a woman, says, it's obviously got feminist coding and such like that. But I think the real point of the film is asking, why do women do what they do to themselves? And the simple answer is, they do this to impress men. To which no man ever has said, yeah, I really like all that dark eye makeup on you. I really like all that, the lip filler and such like that. Yeah, do more of that. That's what I'm looking for. Men don't actually care that much. Now, there may be a couple men who do. And I have words for you, but not here. But this film pushes the point. I would hate to be a Gen Z girl and go see this film, thinking about all the things you should do after following some TikTok trend, because this film will just eviscerate you. A really impressive film. Now, here's the next one is a film I just saw last week, and it is there is only a DVD available of it. It's probably showed up on a few streaming services, I don't know which right now, but the DVD was available, and not a Blu-ray. For those of you who are too snobby to get DVDs, I would say get over it and get the DVD. Strange Harvest is it's a found footage film, technically a mockumentary, and I don't like using the word mockumentary to describe this film. Now, if you're making a film like Spinal Tap, mockumentary works fine. But there's no mockery going on here. This is deadly serious, and it's done in the form of those, hour-long crime shows where you come back and you're like, there's some guy who intones, why did we find the bodies of so-and-so over here in this mutilated condition? We will investigate this. And they interview people, and there's found footage. And so it's a true crime film. And it's a Lovecraftian film. And if you know your Lovecraft, you'll pick it out instantly. But you don't get lots of tentacled creatures and such, but it is horrifying. So this is a film that, obviously, I must have felt something for it, because I immediately put it fairly high on the list. Would it remain that way if I came back in a year? Don't know. But I really think this is a fascinating film. Strange Harvest, chances are you haven't seen it. Then, of course, Sinners, which I did make a video about, as well as The Ugly Stepsister. And I recommend Sinners. Everyone who's seen Sinners comes out very impressed. It's not only about vampires, but there's a lot of character buildup. Some people don't like that, and they say, well, this isn't really a horror film. You've got vampires chomping into people's throats and blood squirting out everywhere. What makes that not a horror film? I hate people who say that. But you know what I figured out? Is that people today, for one thing, they're making films that are genre-bending, and that's part of where we are. But the other thing is, many of these people have all their films on Spotify, or they have their lists on Letterboxd, or not Spotify, but the various streaming services, or they have their lists on Letterboxd, or they have their own downloads and such, although probably less of that these days, and they have their lists, and so they don't have physical media like I do. So when I get a film, I have to say, where does this go? And I have to find a place for it. And I couldn't put this under drama. It's a vampire film. Fits with all the other vampire films. Fits next to Nosferatu. And it fits next to, Dracula and all the rest of it. It's just a very different take. And I think a very worthy take. And I expect it to get a few Academy Awards and such this year. Hopefully, either acting, probably not. It would be nice to see it win Best Picture as opposed to The Favorite, which I really don't like, One Battle After Another, which I just consider irresponsible filmmaking. See my video on that. But number one, which I've also made a video on, is Weapons. Zach Krieger's Weapons. I think that's Krieger's Weapons. I'm not looking at anything. I made the video. Go check it out. This film caught me by surprise. And I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. It made a lot of money for the small film it is. And, great. It's got a very interesting narrative style. Again, some people are saying like, well, that's not a horror film because it doesn't scare you in the first 5 seconds. Yeah, it makes you feel the frisson of uneasiness, so serious uneasiness and mystery and darkness right at the beginning. If that's not enough, if that's not horror, I've got no words for you. But then, of course, later we do get the actual blood and gore. But it's also got a really wicked sense of humor. I mean, seriously wicked sense of humor. And the final moment of the film, which is kind of controversial to some people, they're going, what's going on here? I just thought that was funny and dark as pitch. So, Weapons is my number one. So that's it, my top 10 horror films for 2025. Let's see what else was bubbling under there. Heart Eyes, The Monkey, Together was quite interesting, and that should do it. So those are some of the other films that I found worthwhile this year. So, support the channel. I do not get any funding from YouTube. I only get funding from you. So you can join my Patreon. I need you over there. You could buy my book of puppet plays. That would be a really nice way to show your support. You could give me money directly through PayPal, which is probably the most efficient way, the link below. And if you want to give enough to give me a tax-deductible receipt, use my GoFundMe link down below, which I've had open for years, and you'll see a bunch of money there. But the truth of the matter is, I could use more. I'm incurring expenses because of all of my therapy and other things that are happening. I appreciate you watching. Hopefully, I will feel better soon and do another one of these. Meanwhile, from Georgia, this is Burns saying Naquamdis, which just means goodbye, and Droibit, which means we will indeed meet again very soon.
When I go, I want you to give me 5 minutes. I told you boys I'm no escape artist. For the first time, I like the odds.
At the round earth's imagined corners, Blow your trumpets, angels, and arise, arise from death, you numberless infinities of souls.